Coach Higgins for a comment, and then we'll go to questions here in the room. Morgan?
Well, first of all, the announcements like this are not happy announcements. I take some personal responsibility for the changes we made 4.5 years ago, and I don't feel bad about it. I think that under Coach Hope's leadership, we did make improvements on every phase of the program, and I think we were starting to see some of the fruits of that work. And particularly if you got to see him from the inside working with the young men, those kinds of leadership experiences he provided for them were truly outstanding. And so I start off tonight by saying that Danny Hope is a good man who did a great job for Purdue. I never questioned his work ethic, his character. He devoted his life to improving this program. He and I have been together almost 10 years when you take both stints together. So this was obviously a day that wasn't fun, but it's also a day where we have to understand and be accountable for what our expectations were. We came into the year feeling that we would be an improved football team. I think we were. We said we wanted to reduce the variability of our play so that we were more consistent against all teams in the league, and that we wanted to move up a rung on the ladder. And, we clearly did not do that. But I'll tell you, I was, like many of you, I was at the game at Minnesota. We didn't play our best football. I was at the Penn State game here at home, and we didn't play as well as we would have liked. And then for these seniors and these players to come together to build what they did the last 3 weeks, I don't care who you play, when you're on the road in the Big Ten, it's a challenge. And so to me, it's a credit to Danny, to the coaching staff, that they stuck together, that they fought themselves back into contention to have a season where they have that opportunity for the seniors to go out as champions, an opportunity to qualify for another bowl. I've asked Patrick to serve as the interim head coach. Danny or Gary Nord and I talked a little bit about this, and Gary's going to be a senior advisor. He's been a senior advisor to Patrick once before, and obviously we're hopeful that Gary's physical problems will move forward. But Patrick will lead the team during this bowl process, which we would expect to know something probably by next weekend is probably the timeline. Patrick is taking care of getting the team prepared for final exams and for the bowl game. I obviously will turn my attentions to the search. We'll conduct a national search. I can assure you the quarterback position in the cradle will always be at the heart of our thinking. We'll continue to be aggressive offensively, because I think that's part of our tradition, our experience here at Purdue. I cannot give you a timeline as to how quickly we'll be able to go. Some of you have been around this before. These things sometimes come together very quickly, and sometimes they take a little longer. So I'm not going to be giving weekly updates on this situation. We'll come together as a group once we have the announcement made. When that announcement is made, the new coach will not take over for Patrick. Patrick is going to coach the team in the bowl game. So we'll have to deal with that as we get that person on board. So anyway, I think those are my comments, Tom. And
Coach Higgins, if you want to make a brief statement.
Yeah, this is a great opportunity for this football team to carry on the work that Coach Hope started here 4 years ago, to end the year very strong academically. We're hoping to have our best academic semester since Danny's been here, and also to give these seniors the experience that they deserve. They worked hard the last 3 weeks to get ready to go to a bowl game, so we want to make sure that we can do everything possible that their experience is memorable and also a life lesson for them to learn how to handle difficulties. And that is our main focus for the next month.
Go to questions. If you'll raise your hand, we'll get a mic out to you. Tanner's got one on the far side, and I've got one over here. So start with Mike.
Just for Morgan, was there a tipping point in this decision for you?
I don't think there's a tipping point.
Okay, I'll go again if that's
Go ahead.
if that's all right. I guess what message are you sending to the fan base and to everybody with this decision?
Well, I don't know if I'm sending a message to the fan base. As much as I recognize that when you're in a situation you're not quite over the hump where you want to be, it's hard to get back up and keep moving forward. And football's an important program for any Division I program, but particularly at Purdue. This will be our 12th bowl game in 16 years. I think Tom and Matt put together some data. I think we're about 5th in the Big Ten. We're right in there. We've had a lot of success, and we've had success in the last 4.5 years under Danny's leadership, in every phase of the program as he's articulated. So I guess what I'm telling the fans is, look, we know we haven't been as consistent in our play and our performance as we expect to be and as we want to be. And I felt at this point in time a change in the leadership was probably the right thing to do.
Morgan, Mike Cleft, WLFI, you mentioned
Mike.
the fans. Was there any kind of a factor involved in your decision regarding the attendance at Ross-Ade Stadium in recent seasons?
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously. I mean, we've lost a third of the fan base. And we've gone from about 54,000 in paid attendance in 2007-8 to about 37,000 this past year in paid attendance. And, this is the hard thing is I talked to the student athletes today, and the coaches have been through this. It's not an easy occupation that these gentlemen are involved in. And I explained to the young men, I mean, this is part of it's not their fault. They didn't do anything wrong. They certainly gave it their all, and I'm just delighted the way they ended the season. But, we can't do what we need to do resource-wise with losing a third of the fan base. And, everybody has all kinds of ideas and rationale and what we can do. But at the end of the day, obviously, we've got some work to do to both thank the people who've been with us and stayed with us, but also to encourage those who jumped off the boat to get back in.
Morgan, can you just talk about what involvement President-elect Daniels will have in this process, and have you consulted with him at all?
No, I have not. The acting president of the university is Tim Sands, so that's my boss. Now, Tim may have talked to Governor Daniels, but I don't envision Governor Daniels taking an active role in this. The board of trustees and certainly President Sands have been involved and will be involved.
Morgan, how will you go about the search? Will you form a search committee? Will you use a search
Well, I was
firm?
thinking
Or
maybe
just
all
you?
of you would help me, because by tomorrow morning there'll be candidates all over the internet.
They're
Huh?
They're already up.
Okay. Part of this job is you should always have kind of an idea of where the marketplace is with coaching talent, because when these kinds of circumstances occur, you don't have much time. So you're always in the situation of trying to understand where the candidates are and what would be the best fit. My reference to the cradle of quarterbacks was not just a trite saying. We are an offensive-minded program. That's where we've made our mark over the years, and I don't see that us changing. And we're certainly not going to move into a coach who has a dramatically different scheme, because we've built this team to play a certain kind of football. And we've seen other institutions who made a coaching change, and then they changed their style of play, and it took 2 or 3 years to adjust. We're not going to do that. We've got talent in this program. We know we have talent in this program. We want it to be nurtured. I am going to, there are an awful lot of people who have advice, but there's 3 people in particular that I think I've told the parents of all the student athletes who got a letter from me personally this afternoon electronically, that 3 people are going to have served and will continue to serve as advisors: Ryan Grigson with the Colts, Rick Smith with the Houston Texans, and Bill Pullian. All 3, I think, have a good feel for what the the football world, both at the collegiate and the professional level, are, and they're helping provide that football screen for the search process. No.
Well, just in terms of monetarily, what are you looking at? I mean, obviously there have been reports out there with the coaches' salaries and things of that nature. Are you?
Let me put it this way to you, Stacy. We're prepared to compete, and we know what the Big Ten and we know what nationally you got to do to compete, and we're prepared to do that.
This question is for Patrick, and Patrick, this is not your first coaching job, but just, I guess it's a question from a fan's perspective. Just, you watched your boss lose his job, and you've been in the coaching profession. Just, if you had to explain to a fan or fans how hard that is, on a coach and their family, how would you describe that?
It's traumatic. If you have a family and you create friendships in the community, and your kids have friends at school, and it's the nature of the beast, but then you have to take them and you have to say, hey, Daddy's got to find a new job. And you may not know where you end up. You may end up in a different part of the country. Just from my personal experience, I've had, I think, 10 different jobs, and I've been East Coast, West Coast, North, South, and I thank God that my wife has been very supportive, and she moves with me because it takes a very special family structure and a very special wife to put up with this type of constant stress and constant movement. And we know that when we get into the profession, but it's never really about the coaches. It's about their families, and sometimes we really do a disjustice to them because their life lessons and their learning process sometimes are stunted because we move them around so much.
Other questions in the room, Mike?
So just assume we're all candidates here. How would you sell Purdue to us and sell Purdue to potential candidates out there? What do you believe the strengths of this program that can attract a high-level coach?
Well, I think Purdue University is a brand in and of itself, and I think it's something that Danny and the staff have done a good job. I think Joe Tiller and his staff did a good job. We play an offensive brand of football. We have a strong representation in the National Football League of former players. Our graduation and academic performance of the young men is good and getting better. And I think the caliber of the kids that we turn out of this program, whether they play professional sports or not, are a testimony to themselves. I'm excited to have a new president. They'll be joining us. I think he likes the fact that we're self-supporting. He likes the fact they take real courses. And he likes the fact that we have student athletes who socially, for the most part, make very good choices. And fourthly, he likes to win, and I think that's always helpful. I have a supportive board. I think understands that football is strategic. It's certainly a game and represents a livelihood for the coaches, an opportunity for the student athletes to get a world-class education, and at the same time play at the very highest level to compete for a championship. I mean, I make no bones about it. We want to go back to Pasadena. And that's what it's about. And, so we've got to put ourselves in a position to do that. And the infrastructure that's been built, I think, will be very attractive. We went through a situation back when Coach Coletto stepped down and Joe Tiller came in. And one of the reasons Joe told me he came is he says, I could tell the cupboard wasn't bare. It's not going to take a long time for me to come and make an impact. And a lot of you were here. It didn't. I think a new coach coming in will have the same view. We have an excellent coaching staff. My hope is that new person will take a good hard look at the staff as they come in, and I think you've got some talent here that you can be successful at. Now, whether we'll have the same lightning in the bottle that occurred when Coach Tiller came in, I'm not promising that, but we're not that far off. I mean, we had a couple of games this year. If Ohio State and Notre Dame have gone different, we'd be sitting here at 8-4 and probably have a little different view on life. Yes.
Morgan, you go into the search thinking head coaching experience is a must, or what?
I think it's certainly a plus. I think it's very, very challenging for a coordinator at this level, not so much to handle the X and O's, Brian. I think they can do that. I think it's all the stuff that you have to do in the corner office that to simulate at this level, it's hard. Now, it's not impossible. I mean, Wisconsin took Brett and raised him up there. Pat Fitzgerald, I think, when Randy Walker passed away, was bumped up. So it's not impossible, but it require a unique skill set. And if you had somebody who had prior head coaching experience, that would be a plus. But I wouldn't say a must.
Kind of a follow-up to that, how important is it that they have ties to Purdue, or is that effective?
You know, I think ties to Purdue are tiebreakers. They're not prerequisites.
Role change now, and I guess what's your approach then over this next month?
My approach is to make sure that our student athletes, again, our students first because they have finals coming up, so we have to continue the academic role that we play in their daily lives, and then to try to get them ready to play in a quality bowl game against a quality opponent to the best of their ability and at the highest level that we can get them to play. It's been a kind of a roller coaster for me, as we've talked before. I'm unfortunate because I was unfortunate to be put in a situation to be an interim offensive coordinator, and now I get the unfortunate role of being an interim head coach. And so we're going to do the best job possible. Our coaching staff is committed to these young men, and we're going to do everything possible, like I said before, so that their bowl experience is going to be very memorable.
Morgan, it's Mike Cleff again. Is this one of the hardest decisions you've made in your 19-year tenure as an AD?
Yes. I have great admiration for Danny Hope. I have great respect for what he's accomplished. I've been in a lot of trenches with him. I've been to virtually every game with the man. I understand the highs and the lows. So when you have to make a decision like this, it's gut-wrenching.
This is for Patrick. Are you still interim offensive coordinator too, or do you farm that out for the next month?
I'm interim everything right now. I'm interim offensive coordinator, interim academic advisor, interim head coach. So, like I said, we're going to make sure that these young men continue on the path that Danny set them on.
You got a veteran coaching staff. I mean, this group, we're fortunate to have them.
And Patrick, just a little bit of follow-up. Did it help a little bit that you've had an increased role here over the last few weeks to sort of feel more familiar, I suppose? I don't know if that's the right word, but just, more have a bigger role with all aspects a little bit more than just the receivers?
Sure. It's always that way. And even when I was the receivers coach, we always played a bigger role, having worked with Gary before, and with our cohesiveness on the offensive staff, we always played a big part. But yeah, sure, it helped, and it helped, I think, with Danny to see that we have capable coaches on our staff that are committed to the process. Yeah.
Will the entire staff be staying?
For
The assistant coaches staff for the next month until the bowl game?
Yeah, we need them all. Yeah. I mean, we're going to be short-handed, so everybody's going to pitch in, and they've asked me if I would try to help, but I'm not a football coach.
Any other questions, Mike?
Morgan, I'm just based on, I don't hire coaches, but when you hired Joe and then you hired Danny, and obviously hiring Danny was about 5 years ago, but everything I'm reading is that the dynamics are changing so much so quickly with hiring coaches. Have you noticed that change?
What do you mean by dynamics?
Just, speeding up the process, for example. As one example, it seems like that some coaches are getting shorter tenures at other schools.
Well, I don't have a, most of you have been around. I don't have a quick trigger finger. I mean, that's just not my reputation, and I don't subscribe to that philosophy. I think we built a succession plan because we knew we had some things we had to fix. We knew we went back into the middle of the last decade. We'd done a bunch of junior college recruiting, left a youthful bubble in the recruiting pipeline. That hurt us on the field. It forced us to push some kids into the playing field a little earlier. It had some positive consequences for a few of those young men because they did get that experience, but it was problematic. And so, Danny went through a process of very methodically, with the help of the staff, putting together a solid recruiting plan. And, to me, one of the fortunate things this year is we didn't have to play a lot of the kids. We didn't take a lot of red shirts off. We did a couple. You do that every year, but we were able to preserve that for a lot of the players. You look back 3 years ago when I think 59% of the two-deep roster were upperclassmen, 41% were first-year players. That wasn't the case we had experienced. Danny didn't have a lot of luck. I mean, the injury bug that hit him with all the ACLs and the like, and then having to take a program that started to dip and bring it back out of the not easy. And the attendance has started to fall off when Joe was here. It's not Danny's making, but we haven't excited the fan base, and you have to pay attention to that. It's not the only driver, but you have to pay attention to it. In terms of speeding up, Mike, I don't know. I haven't done this enough where I could tell you it's speeding up, but I think searches in football generally occur about this time of the year, and I think the coaches understand the process, and I think those who are out in the field, you understand the process. It'll come together over a short period of time. It's just the way it is. So Mike's question was a good one. What are you going to sell? And because that clearly we do want the person to come in to understand the Purdue brand and what we are. I think we have a lot of things to sell. Academically, athletically, facility-wise, we've made huge strides. But that's our job to go out and sell.
We've got a couple callers on the line. Let's check in. Mike Merritt with Associated Press. Do you have any questions?
I'm gonna pass at this moment.
How about you?
Yeah, Morgan, real quick. Was it your decision unilaterally for Danny to not coach in the bowl game? Was that Danny's preference, or was this a mutual decision?
Bob, I talked to an awful lot of people about the pros and cons of doing that. And the thing that was the most striking to me was the undue pressure you put under the head coach to do that. You're going to go through a month-long period of time when the focal point is instead of being on the student athletes and on the game, is on the coach who's not going to be there next year. There's family, there's all kinds of personal issues, and I don't want to put a guilt complex on anybody. I just don't want to put a person in a position where it would be very, very difficult. And I explained that to the student athletes tonight. And I think at the end of the day, the advice that I was given was, you're better off to allow the focus to be on the kids, and the way to do that is to have an interim coach.
If I could just follow up, I'm sorry, it's a little hard to hear you on the phone, but given the attendance issues, how important is it to you to find someone who energizes the fan base?
I think I don't care whether it's Purdue or Michigan, I think, or Penn State. I think you gotta your fan base. This is a consumer-driven organization. We're self-supporting. If you lose roughly $3 million a year in revenue opportunities, it's a big deal. So you got to have somebody that will do that. I quite frankly think Danny was making inroads, but we didn't win enough games. He said that in the press conference, I thought, pretty fairly last night.
Bob, anything else?
Hey Morgan, I'm curious. Yesterday, Danny mentioned that he felt like some people didn't reciprocate the commitment to the program. Can you talk a little bit about what went through your mind when he said that? Who did you think he was talking about?
I have no idea.
Jim Johnson, anything from you?
Yeah, Morgan, earlier this week, Coach talked about resources and funding, that type of thing. I guess what kind of guarantees will you be able to give to the next coach that they'll have the resources to be successful?
Well, I think all people have to do is look at what we've done in facilities in the last 4 years of supported football. We've put new practice facilities and upgraded the indoor facility. We've upgraded the outdoor facility. We've done things with the locker room, the offices. I think there's been a lot done. The thing where people are, I think, somewhat confused is they're looking at the current compensation package and saying that it was an unwillingness to invest more in football. And that's not true. We base the compensation package on other people who were similarly situated, who were moving into a Big Ten job for the first time. Brett Bielema, when he went up, that was a comparable compensation package. What we gave to Danny is what Brett got. And the idea was that as the coach continues to have success, you would continue to move that forward. And I think those of you who've been around me for a while have seen me do that with other coaches here in the department. The problem is we didn't have that level of sustained success that we wanted to have. So I don't think there's any resource commitment question, but I can understand why people ask the question.
I guess at what point did you decide it's time to pull the plug?
I don't know that there was a specific day of the week when it came to mind. I think that when it became clear to me that no matter how hard one was working, it was going to be difficult to reverse the image and the view of the program. I don't like people to have to continue to put 120% of effort in, and Danny's a 150% guy. He gives it all he's got, and to recognize that there are forces beyond your control that are probably going to weigh in on this. So I probably, as the season progressed, it became increasingly clear to me that we were probably going to have to make a change.
What's been most disappointing for you this year?
I don't like to walk in a locker room and see the faces on the young men after they lose, and I don't like to see the long faces on the coaches whom I have a lot of respect for. This is not my athletic department; it's Purdue's athletic department. I just happen to be the current landlord for the department. And when I see young people suffer, it bothers me because I know how hard they've worked and I know how close they've been. I mean, it's a game of inches. We always say in football it comes down to a handful of plays, make a difference every game, and clearly we had some of that this year. But we also had some games when we had wide disparities. We weren't as competitive. We have to own up and be accountable that we didn't get the results that we wanted to get. And I'm not going to sit here and talk about 25-85 and not walk the talk. We said we want to be consistently top 25 in each of our sports, an 85% graduation success rate, and that's what we're doing. We're going to create the best atmosphere we can for these young people. So the effort, the work, the character, there are a lot of great things that have happened. And again, I think those things we want to build on as we go to the next coach. We don't want to lose those.
Anything else on the phone line from anybody?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, we've got a few more here in the room, Brian.
Will you talk to recruits in the meantime?
Yeah, we talked about that with the staff today. There's a process that will go on with recruits that's consistent with NCAA rules and the like. We know it's a period of time when there's some uncertainty, but I hope that, or my expectation, it's not my hope, my expectation is that the people that we have are committed to Purdue. And that's our expectation, and I know they'll be eager, and they got a letter from me as well today, the ones who have expressed a willingness to raise their hands, and we've given them a letter indicating them that when the new coach is hired, that will be at the top of his list to make contact with them.
Got time for one or two more if there is one last one.
Coach Higgins, how'd the players take the news?
That's a really good question because, kids are resilient. They love Danny, but they also realize that there's a task before them, and they're committed to doing the best job they can for the next month.
Normally, when you have a situation like this, human nature tells you you're going to go through 4 phases. You're going to be shocked. You're going to be in a denial, an anger mode. You're going to be in it. Finally, you're going to acknowledge it, and then finally you're going to be able to move forward. And I suspect every person around this football program, including the head coach and the athletic director, are going through those 4 phases right now. And some people move through it faster than others, But this is traumatic because we are a tight-knit group, and when we have something like this happen, there's some pain involved.
Morgan, we know that there was the $600,000 buyout, but there were also bonuses factored into that. Do you know any of that yet?
No.
How much
I can't right off the top of my head, but whatever bowl bonuses he would have been entitled to if he had coached, he will get. So there's no deduct as a result of not coaching, and he'll be on the payroll to December 31, gets his all the benefits that are entitled to him under the contract and the like. So
I think we'll wrap it up. I'm sure Morgan and Patrick will stick around for a few minutes, but thank you all for coming. Probably see you here next Sunday night for a bowl announcement.
Nice job. You can escape.